Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin, Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, an attending psychologist for the Child Psychiatry Outpatient Department in Montefiore Health System speaks about a type of depression that's triggered by seasonal changes. Then the Senior Vice President of Mental Health Services for the New York Foundling discusses how they help youth and their family to create transformational change in their own lives. After that, the Chief Platform Officer for NYC Kids Rise gives us all the details on their new scholarship opportunity. Later on, the Chief of Grant Strategy for Robin Hood discusses how they're helping support low-income New Yorkers. And finally, the two co-executive directors of UpBeatNYC talk about how they provide high-quality music education. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin, Alleyne, and today is Tuesday, December 17th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. December is Seasonal Affective Disorder Awareness Month, also known as SAD. This is a type of depression that's triggered by a change in seasons, usually when fall starts. Symptoms include depression, fatigue, hopelessness, and social withdrawal. Here to help spread awareness about SAD is an attending psychologist for the Child Psychiatric Outpatient Department at Montefiore Health System, Dr. Jenny Seham. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Now, can you explain or tell us a little bit more about seasonal affective disorder and how it manifests in patients?
Sure. Very important this season as seasonal affective disorder is a depression. It is a mood disorder. And it is, as the name suggests, it is really reliant on the season. So it usually starts in late fall and runs throughout the winter until the seasons change again and there's more light. So although it really mimics the symptoms of depression, it really is unique to this season, but can be very, very serious, very severe. And so it's great to shine a light on it.
Now, expanding on that a little bit, I know you said that it kind of differs a little bit from what we traditionally know about depression. Can you tell me a little bit more about, maybe what are some differences and
Sure.
what they look like?
Yes. So it is the actual diagnosis is dependent upon the season, and those symptoms can go away once the spring happens and there's more light and there's more the days are longer. So that's what really distinguishes it. But what's really important to know is how impactful that daylight and that change in daytime can be on our body.
Now, is there a specific population or age group more susceptible to SAD?
There is. What the research is showing is that women are more susceptible than men, and that people between the ages of 18 to 30 are more susceptible. I want to say, though, partly we don't have enough research on children. It absolutely impacts children and teens, but we may be overlooking it, and we need to take a look at them and take care of them as well.
And I want to expand on that because I feel like our society, we're thinking about mental health in a different way. We're including children in that conversation now. If this is the case, how may SAD present in children or teenagers compared to adults?
Right. So in children, you may see an irritable child and an irritable adult, and they may look a little different, right? And so sometimes even in our practice, we will see parents bring in kids because their behavior and they're out of control, or the school might have said something. And what we uncover is that there's depression happening, that there's irritability or boredom because there's fatigue, there's been this impact on concentration, tiredness, there's been an impact on their eating behaviors, there's been a huge impact on sleeping because there may be an excess of melatonin, or there may be a decrease in serotonin, which is kind of known as the happiness neurotransmitter. So in kids, this may look like oh, they're bored, or oh, they're a teenager and their hormones. Absolutely, they're a teenager and their hormones, but the light change, the daylight change, the circadian rhythm change is making this impact, and they may not be able to talk about it, so we need to talk to them and find out what's going on.
Now, I want to talk about the role that climate change, climate plays in SAD. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And, also, people think of this time as like the happiest time of the year. How could that also be contributing to someone's overall mood?
Yeah, I'm going to take the second one first because I think there's a great expectation, right? It's the holidays and everyone's happy and that's what's on TV and yay, it's Christmas and it's Thanksgiving. And that when somebody is feeling down, that can really contribute to negative thoughts that can perseverate in somebody's brain, right? Like, I'm not feeling happy. I'm not feeling okay. What's wrong with me? There must be something that I'm not doing, or I'm a bad person, or I'm worthless. And what is really happening is that there's a change. There's been a change in our body clock when somebody's experiencing that. For all of us, our body clock changes. That impacts mood, that impacts sleep, and that impacts concentration and hormone activity. So there is actually changes that are happening that really make it hard for people to feel happy. So, that kind of leads us into some of the stigma about mental health, or saying that something is wrong when you just feel like, oh no, I'm just lazy, or I'm just, a bad kid or a bad parent.
Now, how does this, mood disorder affect people in urban settings like NYC?
Yeah. So when we think about sunlight and time to go out, and because being out in the sun really is impactful on our well-being, right? There's a production of vitamin D, which is one of the aspects that is reduced because we don't have enough sun. So think about being in an urban setting, and I'm in an urban setting too. There are tall buildings that block the sun, in addition to the change in hours and the change in the sunlight. Tall buildings, also things get dark, right? And so we say, go out and, take a run, or sometimes that's dangerous. Sometimes we don't really have access to nature, to something that is going to help us feel good. But there are solutions. There are definitely solutions.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about those solutions. So, what are some treatments or interventions that are most effective for managing SAD or SAD in children and adolescents as well as adults?
Yeah. Most important is to get the sunlight that you can, right? And the very best that we can do is families doing things together, because interaction socially, also having your kids have play dates, or teens have going out with teens. We all spend a lot of time on social media, and there's a lot of benefits to social media, but when we're feeling down, this is not a time to isolate in the room. This is a time to go out and get the sunlight we can. So activity, exercise, as much sunlight as possible, and socialization. So the second level is therapy. If this is something that's persisting, if this is something that you are feeling all day, every day, and it's been lasting for 2 weeks, that's a depression that really needs attention. So the other thing that's available is talk therapy, evidence-based talk therapy. And one of the strongest is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. And one of the things that does is really address the negative thoughts that we have. I'm worthless, I can't, I'm fat, I've been eating too much and I can't control myself, to address not only with psychoeducation about what's going on with SAD, but also with really targeting these negative thoughts. The third thing is light, is actually getting a light box what they say is that it needs to emit 10,000 LUX, which is the measure of the light intensity, right? And do not look at it directly, and preferably get a prescription for this, or you don't need a prescription, but talk to your provider about it. But it really makes an impact. 30 minutes in the morning, kind of changing what you used to have when the sun was shining, makes an impact. Fourth is psychotropic medication. So I mentioned before that one of the neurotransmitters, serotonin, that's something that is encouraged and produced by being out in the sunlight. When the sunlight's not there, we're not producing that, right? And so there are medications that kind of replace what we're missing. The last thing I'll say is vitamin D, which is something that also we decreases when we're not out in the sunlight. But again, that's something that you should talk to your provider about, because sometimes that interacts, even though that's a good vitamin to have, it can interact with other medication.
Now, I want to talk about the stigma surrounding SAD. Can you just quickly let us know what we can do to kind of, step away from that?
Yes. Anytime you can, be a friend, be a parent, be a colleague that is like, how are you doing? What's going on? And educate people about SAD. So we can all do that. You don't need to be an attending psychologist. We can all help people understand that most of us have a little bit of the winter blues, right? In addition to the, holiday happiness, the absence of light and the change in our sleeping patterns have an impact. But we can do a lot in just educating. We can do a lot. And parents also be the model for your kids that, I'm feeling down and I think I'm depressed. So we can do a lot to really decrease the stigma.
Well, Dr. Owen, thank you so much for joining us and kind of educating our community on this.
Thank you so much.
To stay in touch with all of Montefiore's efforts, please go to their website at montefioreeinstein.org. Don't go away, we'll be back with more Open right after this. Welcome back. The New York Foundling works to provide mental health care to New Yorkers by providing carefully designed programs, effective and interrelated services, and opportunities for community members to create transformational change in their lives. Joining us now to discuss their efforts is the Senior Vice President of Mental Health Services for the New York Foundling, Dr. Kristy-Lee Pierre. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more on the overall mission of the New York Foundling?
Sure, yeah. So for over 150 years, the Foundling has been committed to supporting hundreds of thousands of children and families and adults throughout New York City and Puerto Rico. We offer a single point of entry, or what we like to call a front door, just to allow ease of access to a lot of our services. I specifically oversee our mental health department, so I oversee the mental health provision for our children that are in our child welfare, as well as children that are in the community at large, and through our school-based mental health program as well.
Now, I understand that you offer a wide range of services, as you mentioned, from child welfare to mental health support. Can you share a little bit more about some of the key programs that you provide?
Absolutely, yeah. So as mentioned, right, we provide mental health services, but we also provide medical services. We also support children and families that are involved in child welfare, as well as preventative programs. We support adults that experience developmental disabilities through a wide array of services that range from day hab services all the way through supportive housing services. And we also provide educational services, again, ranging from pre-K, actually, all the way up through college, through our Fostering College Success Initiative. So really, we kind of have our hands in a lot of different pots, if you will.
Now, with that, focusing on so many different issues, how do you kind of ensure that the communities that you are serving are being well attended to while you're focusing on these different issues?
Oh, good question. One of one of our main concerns and our main drives is using research, right? You researched back data, really thinking through and using things that we know that works, right, for the families that we're supporting. All of the services that we provide are trauma informed, and we try to be responsive to the needs of the families that come and seek care with us. And so, as I mentioned earlier, right, we want to reduce the barriers towards accessing some of those services that we provide. So, for example, if we happen to have a family that maybe started with us through child welfare, right, then perhaps after they have separated from that particular service, they may continue to still seek mental health services with us, or medical services, right, through one of our community clinics located in the Bronx, actually, at 170 Brown in the Mott Haven section. Additionally, if they have a family member perhaps that's experiencing developmental disabilities, then we're able to connect them to that arm, right? So we really try to be responsive to the needs as they come up, and try to also seek to have those responses be really individualized and unique, because we know that the needs of folks, right, tend to be unique. They're not cookie cutter, and so we can't be either.
Now, I kind of want to merge these two ideas. So, the work that you do with children and mental health, I understand that there's a school-based mental health program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how it works?
Yeah, so we actually are currently in over 20 schools throughout New York City. We are offering services, or at least have them available to over 20,000 children, again, through all the 5 boroughs. And why that's really important is because if a child is identified perhaps through a crisis event, right, that they need additional support, then they're able to be referred over to us. Additionally, those services may be provided either in their school, we may be able to provide them at home, right, through our telehealth services, or we have another brick and mortar actual office that they can come and seek those services. So we have a community mental health clinic that's up in East Harlem. It's at 109 115th. And the really great thing about that is because it's off the 6th, it's actually really accessible to our Bronx locations as well. Like I mentioned, one in Mott Haven and then another one up at Southern Boulevard. So the students are not only being able to access crisis services, but also individual treatment, group therapy, medication management if they also require that, as well as any evaluations to support with housing or educational needs as well.
Now, what are some of the biggest challenges families and children in New York are currently facing today, and how is your organization helping address that?
Yeah. Even before the pandemic, we were seeing a rise in acuity in a lot of the presenting issues of children, and that was ranging from depression, increased thoughts of self-harm, behavioral disruptions, and all of that has continued to persist throughout and since the pandemic. And so what we've been trying to do to ensure that we're addressing that, one, like I mentioned, is really trying to minimize the barriers, right? When folks are looking for help, they don't want to have to jump through a million hoops to try to identify, right? Where can I go? Who takes my insurance? Who has availability? And what's great about us is we don't allow insurance to be a barrier to being able to provide those services, right? And so given that folks are concerned more than ever about their finances, right, about being able to access enough food and stability of housing, being able to address all of those needs in one place really helps to minimize the stress, which then is going to impact the outcome and make people, get better faster.
Now, speaking of stress, I have to mention that we are kind of within the holiday season right now.
Yeah.
How does that impact the stress that many of these same families are kind of facing already?
Yeah, I mean, it's really unique depending on the person, obviously, right? So a child, for example, entering child welfare may be experiencing their very first holiday separated from their family, and that can be really tough, right? Similarly, so some adults experiencing developmental disabilities can feel really isolated and not really included in all of the festivities and the parties and whatnot, right? So we definitely see an increase all across the board in folks' stress levels and their concerns. And so in addition to just treatment, we also try to support with community building, because we know that those are the kind of strategies that also supports during these times, both for children and adults. So having holiday events, right, having giveaways, being able to connect with people without all of the initial tensions of stigma or worry that I may be being judged for any of the presenting issues that I have, that helps a lot. And so we try to focus on, again, just identifying different and unique ways to actually get folks what it is that they need and supporting them connecting with each other.
And focusing specifically on, the children in foster care who you mentioned, this could be their first time not celebrating some of these holidays with their family. Even beyond that, what are some ways that you support that, vulnerable community?
Yeah. So as mentioned, right, we try to definitely use trauma-informed care so that we're ensuring that we are sensitive to a lot of the unique needs and concerns that our children and families are experiencing so that we're not re-traumatizing, right? We're not causing more harm when folks are coming and looking to us to actually help. Additionally, we try to be really unique about how we are tailoring those services to folks. Again, it's not cookie cutter. We can't just give, one size fits all to everyone. So not everybody likes individual therapy. Not everybody wants to talk about their feelings. So being able to have additional programs where we utilize art healing, right, for folks that are not particularly interested in just speaking about their feelings, right, offering different modalities of having folks meeting in groups, having folks meeting via telehealth, right, to again meet them where they are, really helps for us to branch out, right, and again increase that access for folks and lower a lot of the stigma that folks tend to feel surrounding getting this type of help.
And I love that you mentioned that because you're right, absolutely. Like somebody who may just be experiencing this for the first time may not want that, type of attention or to talk about those type of things. So I think it's amazing that you're kind of looking at it from every different angle. Can you quickly just let us know, just moving forward, what are some of the organization's goals to continue helping this community?
Oh, for sure. Well, expansion, right? We definitely want to help more families. We want to get to the places that we aren't currently located. So currently, right, and that it seems like a tall order because we're already through all 5 boroughs. We're in Rockland County, Orange County. We're also provide services for folks out in Puerto Rico. So we're definitely an expansive program. But as anybody who lives in New York City knows, there's a big difference between Mott Haven and Kingsbridge, right? There's a big difference between downtown Brooklyn and Crown Heights or Canarsie, right? So being able to actually expand into some of those areas where we know folks really need it, where we know that folks would also really respond to it is definitely top of mind. And then also looking at additional innovative ways, because that's always been our major goal at the Foundling, is being innovative, right? Being on the cutting edge and really trying to identify the new ways, the better ways to help our community. So partnering with as many people as possible that we know are already doing this wonderful work and seeing how we can tap into that network and see if we can add any value to it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Your organization is doing amazing work, and for being around for over 150 years, you have to be innovative. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about what you're doing to help New Yorkers.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
To learn more about the services they offer, please go to their website at nyfoundling.org. Stay tuned. We have more for you right after this.
Hey, creative family. My name is Timothy Coleman, and I'm the Director of Education here at BronxNet. And I'm standing in BronxNet's Media and Technology Studios in the South Bronx because I want to let you know about an amazing program that we're bringing back that highlights the creativity of community members just like you. Emerging Media Makers is a show that introduces you to BronxNet's certified producers. They've taken a step in their creative journey by enrolling in BronxNet's media training classes. On this show, you'll get to see the many ways that our certified producers have created a space that's all their own. Emerging Media Makers, your passion lives here.
Welcome back. NYC Public School alumni and leaders from the Bronx, in collaboration with NYC Kids Rise, announced the 2024 to 2025 launch and significant expansion of the NYC Public School Alumni Community Scholarships Initiative. This is a first-of-its-kind vehicle that allows alumni to make a tangible investment in the next generation of public school students. Here to tell us more about this expansion is the Chief Platform Officer for NYC Kids Rise, Nicole Pierre. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about NYC Kids Rise?
Sure. NYC Kids Rise and the Save for College program is a community tool that New Yorkers can use to build wealth for their neighborhoods and to support the college and career dreams of their children, regardless of that child's family income or immigration status. Across New York City, there are over 200,000 New York City public school students that now have an NYC scholarship account with money set aside and invested for their college and career futures. And each year in New York City public schools, starting in kindergarten, nearly every child receives that account seeded with an initial $100 and invested into a 529 account.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about the NYC Public School Alumni Community Scholarship and how it came to be?
Sure. The NYC Public School Community Scholarship is a new New York City tradition. It's the first of its kind vehicle, and it takes advantage of the infrastructure that the Save for College program has put in place with over nearly every first, second, and third grader across New York City having a scholarship account that represents over 42,000 students in the Bronx. And using this platform, New York City Public School alumni are able to give back to their school communities. They're able to give back and intangibly invest in the students who are sitting in seats where they once sat years ago, and they're able to share their experience and act as role models for those students. So last year we had over 39 alumni across New York City give back to the kids in their elementary schools, and that channeled over $400,000 with a philanthropic match to kindergarten, first, and second graders in New York City.
Now, how does this scholarship help build stronger bonds within the community?
The scholarship accounts or the scholarship program and using the Save for College program as a platform is a great way for, again, New Yorkers to really show their commitment and investment in New York City public school students. One of the things that we want to do with the Save for College program is really bring neighborhoods and communities together so that kids and families know that they're not on this journey alone, and that there is already an investment in their college and career dreams, and that their community believes in their educational future, and we encourage them to dream big.
Now, I understand that this opportunity is available to everyone, especially those, regardless of your immigration status or your background. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and why that was so important?
I mean, we live in one of the most diverse cities in the U.S., and it was really important that this program was designed so that it could be universal and so that all students and families in New York City public schools could participate. Excuse me. And so the idea that a family or a student can participate in the program regardless of their family's income or immigration status, we wanted families and students to know that it's about more than what they could do on their own, but it's about the community coming together and supporting them. And so we're super excited about the the New York City Public School Alumni Community Scholarship this year, and getting more and more alumni involved.
Now, speaking of alumni, how has the support been from them? And, what was some feedback you may have heard from those who have taken part?
Yeah, the feedback has been great. It's been overwhelming. Again, we had over 39 alumni participate last year. This school year, our goal is to double that amount and get over 80 alumni involved in this year's campaign. And alumni really enjoyed being able to go back to their school community and talk to the students there and share the folks that influenced them on their journey and what helped them along the way. And so again, this year our goal is to have alumni give back to the third graders at the elementary schools where they attended. And we're really excited. In the Bronx last year, there was over $86,000 that went to kindergarten, first, and second graders in the Bronx at 7 elementary schools. And this year, we're hoping to double that amount.
Now, I kind of also want to expand on what I think is really amazing is that we're focusing on elementary school because usually when we hear scholarships, we think of college students. Why did you want to kind of focus on the youngest New Yorkers in their educational journey?
Yeah, it's never too early to start thinking about your financial education. Your education. And so I think it's very important to start early and having those discussions and really encouraging kids to dream big at an early age and taking small steps at an early point in their lives is really important. And every dollar matters. Small amounts do make a difference. We know that kids with even a modest amount in a college savings account will be 3 times more likely to attend college and 4 times more likely to graduate.
Now, what has the feedback been from the parents, who've been involved?
Yeah. I mean, the parents are just excited to know, again, that they're not on this journey alone. I think for a lot of families, college can seem overwhelming. The cost of college is going up, and so it may seem overwhelming. Some students and families may think that this isn't, the path that their child will take. But to know that you have your community in your corner and that you're not on this journey alone, and that starting in kindergarten, your child already has money invested for their college and career future. I think parents are really excited and appreciate that. And we're just excited to see more families spread the word among their peers that this program exists.
Now, are there any requirements needed or eligibility requirements needed to join the program?
No. Now what it means to be a New York City public school student is that when you start kindergarten, unless your family chooses not to participate, you're going to receive an NYC scholarship account seeded with an initial $100. Your family will have the opportunity to earn rewards and have more money added to that scholarship account. And again, there's this community scholarships where your neighbors, local businesses, local organizations can contribute to groups of students' scholarship accounts. And so, yeah, that's just being a New York City public school student will get you that account. Currently, there's kindergarten through 3rd graders that are eligible to participate this year. We're going to welcome the new class of kindergartners in January. They'll have their accounts, and we'll continue to add a grade of kindergartners. And the vision is that all 1.1 million New York City public school students will have an asset for their college and career future and support from all corners of their community.
Well, that's amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Can you just let everybody know where they can go to learn more information?
Yes. We invite all Bronx alumni of New York City Public Schools to go to nyckidsrise.org/alumni to learn more about this year's New York City Public School Alumni Community Scholarship and, find out more about how they can give back to their school community.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
To learn more about this scholarship, please go to the website at nyckidsrise.org/alumni. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open right after this. Welcome back. Robin Hood, New York City's largest local poverty-fighting philanthropy, announced $40 million in additional grant investments that will combat poverty across the city's 5 boroughs. The grants will fuel direct service work at 72 nonprofit organizations serving low-income New Yorkers. Here to speak more about these grants is the Chief of Grant Strategy for Robin Hood, Sarah Oltmans. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, can you give us a little bit of an overview about Robin Hood and its overall mission?
Sure. So every day across New York City, families are making impossible choices between buying groceries and paying their rent, taking a sick child to the doctor, but maybe losing a day's worth of pay as a result. At Robin Hood, we try and respond to that with a simple concept. Your starting point in life should not define where you end up. There are over 2 million people who are currently living in poverty in New York City, and another 2.6 million that are just one crisis away from falling into poverty. So Robin Hood works to respond, and over the course of our history, we've given away almost $3 billion to support long-term opportunities for New Yorkers.
Now, your team was able to allocate significant funding in the fourth quarter. How do you prioritize which organizations and initiatives receive support?
Yeah, so we give out grants throughout the year, but the fourth quarter is our largest quarter of the year. So this quarter alone, we made over $40 million in grants to 70 plus organizations that are working on the ground across the 5 boroughs of New York City. We really have two areas that we're really zeroed in on right now. So one is helping to address financial stability, especially in the face of this affordability crisis. And the second is to really create lasting opportunities for New Yorkers.
Now, there's a focus on helping support low-income families. Why was that important for Robin Hood to focus on? I know with the name, we kind of have an idea, but can you explain why it was so important to kind of, just have that extreme focus on low-income families?
Yeah, so this financial stability piece, we think it's really important to address the real needs that people are facing today. And so we're looking to make sure that they're feeling it in their day-to-day lives, whether it's being able to have access to childcare so they don't have to worry about their child during the day, but also, are able to earn a paycheck or finding a new career path. So we're really trying to address those current and real needs for New Yorkers.
And I understand that education and job training are also focuses. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we believe in the idea that people should be able to chart their own course. So for some people, that may mean they ultimately go to college. For others, they may go into an apprenticeship or a training program. And then some people want to combine both of those things. They want to be going to school, but also be working part-time. So we're really looking at programs that can create those opportunities. So a high-quality education, making sure that people have the skills that they need, or a job training program that puts people on a career pathway that gives them a family-sustaining wage.
Now, I understand that a lot of people believe that education and job training are vehicles that can kind of help with financial stability. Can you tell us a little bit more about Robin Hood's effort to really focus on financial stability and maybe some organizations you've worked with to help with that?
Yeah, so I think coming out of the pandemic, we maybe think things are getting better, but we see that people are really still struggling. Just as one example, the lines at the pantries are getting longer, not shorter. So we've been funding a couple of really innovative programs. So one right here in the Bronx at the Hunts Point Market, Sharing Excess, is really trying to tackle two problems at once. The rescuing food that would otherwise be thrown away, but it's perfectly good, and giving it to food pantries to help families in need. And this year alone, they've rescued over 8 million pounds of food for New Yorkers. A second program is a program called Terra Firma, which again is based here in the Bronx, is working with immigrant children and their families, and doing a more comprehensive approach, providing medical care, mental health care, making sure that people have legal services if needed, making sure that they have really everything that they need to be able to have a bright future.
Now, another focus area is housing stability. How does the team approach this issue of housing security in a city as large and diverse as New York?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think everybody knows that affordable housing is probably one of the biggest things facing New Yorkers. So we tackle it from a few different approaches. So first, we try and build more housing. So we're working with organizations like the Bowery Residence Committee and Breaking Ground that are building more supportive and affordable housing. But we also want to keep people in their homes. So organizations like Just Fix, which creates free tech tools that helps people address repairs more quickly and stay in their homes. But I think maybe the most effective approach is sometimes legal services. So we've seen, working with organizations like Legal Aid and the New York Legal Assistance Group, that if people have a lawyer when they're facing eviction, more than 80% of them will be able to stay in their homes.
Now, what is Robinhood's long-term vision for breaking the cycle of poverty, and how do the funded programs contribute to creating economic mobility for low-income families?
Yeah, so we are really trying to address these needs today, but we're also trying to think about long-term opportunities. So one of my favorite examples is our Child Care Quality and Innovation Initiative, which is a $50 million initiative focused on childcare. So first of all, childcare can be almost as expensive as rent for many families. So if we can make it more affordable, that's money in their pocket today. But it also means that a parent, especially mothers, can go to work. But it also has this second generation impact. So high quality childcare has been shown to have incredible impacts. So it helps children in their long-term education, they live longer, healthier lives, and it really just provides great opportunities.
And speaking of, just thinking long-term, I know that unfortunately in our city we have a lot of things that need immediate assistance, right? But when we talk about long-term, can you explain, how does an organization think about things that are long-term while also addressing the needs that are needed right now?
Right, so we do address those immediate needs, things like food pantries, but then we also think about things like a career ladder. So how can somebody get the training that will allow them to earn more over time, which allows them to support their family, maybe eventually own a home, really to build that wealth. So looking at those career ladders, looking at education, things that really have that lasting impact.
Now, can you provide an example of a program that has made a sustainable difference?
Yeah, so I think education is probably one of the best ways to have a sustainable impact. And over 15 years ago, we helped launch the Relay Graduate School of Education, which has a really effective way of training teachers, very hands-on, really based in practical classroom experiences. And this year, we've launched a new initiative with them to work with all superintendents and principals across New York City and focus on early literacy. So you can see how that could have a lasting impact. So we're not just impacting one classroom, but a whole school and a whole community to help build kids' futures.
Now, you're doing amazing work and assisting so many organizations. Can you share the process of selecting specific organizations to kind of work with Robinhood?
Yeah, so we have both some long-term partners that we work with for many years, and then we also really want to remain nimble and respond to new needs in the city and to also look for new innovations that may be even more impactful. So Children's Health Fund is one example. We've been funding them for over 36 years, really since our start, and they provide health care and mental health care to children across New York City, including for children who are homeless at the time. But we also look to respond to new needs. So as we're all aware, we've seen a huge influx of new migrants to New York City. And since December 2022, Robinhood's given away over $12 million to support these really immediate needs. So we try and balance all of those things, but I think the one thing we are real focused on is results. So that's the one piece that's in common, whether it's long-term or shorter-term partnerships.
Now, very quickly, if there is an organization out there that is maybe looking at this and kind of wants that assistance or feels like they need that support, where can they go to learn more information?
Yeah, they can always just come to our website, which is robinhood.org, and they're able to both get more information about what we fund, but also put in an inquiry through our website.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. Just doing this work here in the Bronx, I know that there's so many organizations that are out there supporting low-income New Yorkers, but they definitely need that support. And as you mentioned, we would think things are getting better, but we're seeing that, people are still struggling. So I think it's amazing your organization is out here doing the work to support people doing that work. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
To learn more about their work to support New Yorkers, please go to their website at robinhood.org. We have to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Open after this.
"19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back. UpBeatNYC not only provides high-quality, accessible music instruction, but does so in a way that challenges the norms of competitive music education. They believe that all children are innately musical and have a right to high-quality, long-term music education. Here to tell us more about the programs they offer are the two co-executive directors, Liza, Austria, and Richard Miller. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, what inspired the creation of UpBeatNYC?
It really was born out of a lot of conversations around my family's dinner table. My parents are both musicians, so I was lucky enough to be raised with, surrounded by music. I grew up playing the piano, singing, dancing, and as a young adult, was able to perform in New York City. So sitting at the table as a young adult, a lot of the conversations would focus around music. And my mother at the time was a public school and elementary school teacher, and was really frustrated and saddened by how much the arts was always being cut from the schools. My father was a professional bass player, and in the last few years of his life became a fierce advocate for free music education, largely inspired by a music program in Venezuela in the 70s, that started in the 70s, known as El Sistema, that gave free music instruction to hundreds of thousands of kids, still exists today, in youth orchestras and choirs. So he had also come from the Philippines on a bass scholarship after receiving free bass lessons there. And so it meant a lot to him personally that music be something that was accessible to everybody and opened the doors, created opportunities for all kids.
Now, I understand that the organization started back in 2009. How does it feel to see how far you've come since then?
We are so proud of everything that UpBeat's done, and especially the community, the families, and their trust in the organization to, to bring their kids to us every day. And it's a long-term program, so you can stay as long as you want. Kids are there from ages 5 up through college. And right now we have 185 students. We have paid internship programs as well. And they're luthier, which is instrument repair, and teaching, assistant teachers who get experience teaching. So even though we started very small, with just us as volunteers, like you said, 15 years ago, really just family members and friends. But we're really proud that we still have that family feel, even though we now have 15 teachers and are operating 6 days a week. And just so proud, most importantly, of course, of the kids. The way they engage with each other, take care of each other, and really commit themselves to long-term learning.
Now, how do you measure the impact of your programs on the communities you serve?
So the most important thing, I think, is like I just said, is like keeping that culture of joy and an inspiring way of teaching. If our kids are joyful and learning, we know that the impact is happening. We definitely, teachers keep close eye and staff on every student, on their progress. We have private lessons for almost all students. And, and you know, the proof is also in their performances and their attendance, which is very high, and the high level of music that they're making is really beautiful and inspiring to the whole community.
Now, how does your organization collaborate with other organizations or community leaders to enhance its program?
So we know that we really feel that music is essential. And one of my father's favorite quotes was that arts isn't the baking soda, but it is the baking soda and not the frosting of the cake, right? It's something essential. And at the same time, we also understand that, you know, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, and that there's so many challenges that our families face in our community. And in the South Bronx, you know, there's issues, and we partner with organizations and community leaders around food security, environmental justice, immigrant rights, waterfront access. There's so many things. So we partner with organizations like South Bronx Unite, La Peña, La Morada, an amazing Oaxacan restaurant in our community, family owned, that has given hundreds of meals to our families and helped us provide fresh produce. And it's been, so it is a collective effort. We believe that we're really, you know, UpBeatNYC is a music organization, but that is building a community that also looks at the health and well-being of the whole child and the whole family. We're also lucky to have the support of our council member, Diana Ayala, who's helping us at the moment to think about how we fit our big orchestras and our Afro-Latin jazz band we don't have enough room in the space we're in now. So we're looking at opportunities to expand and find a permanent space that can really be for the community. We also have partnerships with music institutions like Celia Cruz High School for music here in the Bronx. Amazing to have their students as a part of our program, receiving private lessons and part of our ensembles. LaGuardia High School, Interlochen Center for the Arts in Michigan, and the New York Philharmonic. We get to partner with them and our students to perform side by side with their musicians.
And I've just add that we have a partnership also with South Bronx Unite and the local Community Land Trust, which is the Mott Haven Port Morris Community Land Stewards. We've been fighting for the last 10 years to turn an abandoned New York City hospital space into community center. So that is a dream that's coming true in 2027, and UpBeat will have space there to grow its programming as well.
Now, one program that I found very interesting is the pre-orchestra program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's our paper orchestra, paper violin program. So when students come to us at age 5 or 6, their parents join them. They build an instrument out of cardboard and glue and paint it themselves, and they really get to have that hands-on experience of knowing details of the instrument, learning how to hold it, how to take care of it. Their parents can be with them in that, so it's really creates the community feeling that we feel like is so important for the success of the child. And then once they've learned on that instrument for a few months, then they receive a real instrument.
Now, has there been any challenges with getting, you know, very small children to focus? Because music is not easy to learn. It takes a lot of focus and dedication. So have there been any challenges with that?
Well, that's part of why we start with sometimes that pretend instrument, right? Because there's so many steps, and that's a building block toward then getting the real instrument. But we see two things. One, that kids have that intense focus. They are capable of that kind of intensity when they're also enjoying it. And we're not looking to create like a little army of musicians. You know, there is a lot of joy in the learning. Our teachers are amazing at creating a space where kids really feel like they can make mistakes, that they can express themselves. And so all of that together, I think, then brings that opportunity for kids to really focus in, and they surprise us with how well they do.
And you know, I love that you mentioned that, because I think that when we think about the arts, in order for it to be appreciated, there has to be perfection, or that you have to be, this amazing, talented musician. But you talked about it just being fun, and can you just explain why that's important for kids to just kind of have fun with it?
Absolutely. I mean, at the heart of UpBeat, we're a social program, we're a community program, we're a family program, where that's the key, that's the most important ingredient like you're talking about. And if we don't have that, there's really nowhere to go. So that's always our starting point. That's always where we come back to, is like, how does this feel? How fun is it to be here? There's a lot of hard work going on, But it's really the basis is these relationships. How are we communicating with the kids? What kind of relationships were we building? Not just today, but long term. You know, we don't have some sort of policy like 3 strikes you're out if you're late too much. No, we're all family. You know, so we're here for the long term. And I think I know that families get that pretty quickly once they're in the program. And that's really what binds us together and gives the strength to do something that's very difficult, like learn a musical instrument, but you need a family behind you.
Now, I understand that majority of the programs or all the programs are free. Can you explain, the importance behind that?
Yeah, it's very important to us. We really feel like that music is a right and not something that should only be for those who can afford it. It can be very expensive to learn an instrument. And so we know that if you're deciding, we don't want families to be deciding between being able to get groceries and being able to send their kids to a supportive program where they have something really positive to do after school. And we also, we feel that the voices of the young people here in the South Bronx, the South Bronx has such a rich cultural tradition and, music that has come from here, hip hop, salsa. This is a birthplace of those genres. And yet there's been just a lot of exclusion because there's been a lack of resources also in the community. So we need these young people's voices, right? We need them. The world is a richer place to have their participation, their creativity. Join the voices of our society.
Now, we got a little bit from you on your background on why you love music, but can you explain, why it's important to you and how you got into music?
Absolutely. I started in middle school playing on my brother's hand-me-down saxophone, and yeah, I grew up in Texas where, unfortunately, unlike New York City, there is bands in all the schools. Football's a big thing, so I did marching band, and then got interested from my high school band director, Charles Watts, who actually went to I.M. Terrell, a very historically important school as far as jazz and other musicians. But he had fostered a beautiful big band there that I fell in love with jazz. And then I moved to New York City and studied it myself and met Liza. And that's how I became a part of her wonderful musical family. But yeah, I was, we both, because of our parents and whatever situations we're in, it wasn't a question of whether we were going to do music or not, But it is a question in the city. It's not a given that your kid will have access here. And we do think that is tragic. This needs to change. There needs to be long-term solutions. And we feel like UpBeat, although we're not going to be able to reach all the hundreds of thousands of kids in the city, we can reach the ones in our community. And we can also hopefully become a beacon and an advocate for that change.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining us and sharing a little bit about the community that you've created, for the kids of New York, with us here at BronxNet. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
If you want to know more about their programs, please go to their website at UpBeatNYC.org. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon's Fios 33, or watch anytime on the web at BronxNet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Jaime on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.